Hi there. I think for me, making a video is sort of like making bread. You make the bread. You make the dough, you bake it, you let it cool, and then for some reason you don't eat it right away. And you leave it. After a few days, it's very stale. So stale that you don't really want to eat it. You leave it much longer and it goes moldy. Now, you might ask, what has that got to do with my videos? I have a video that I have not finished. That video has been sitting on the hard drive of my computer now for well over a month. The reason why it isn't finished is just sheer inertia. I need to gather some photographs to put in with the video. The video basically talks about how my photography has taken a turn upward in terms of at least output because I've been asked to do a few things. I've shot videos, I have shot still pictures for a stage show, I have shot pictures for a local organization for their annual report. I have shot headshots for some of the staff at the local council. I have shot soccer games for my niece. All of these things. So I've been pretty busy. And you throw in a couple of days of street photography in there as well, and things are definitely looking up. But the daunting task of trying to gather together the best of the images for all these things to put in that video got put aside. Now I look at it, and what was once a somewhat tedious task has now basically gone off the scale. So that video may eventually show up, but don't hold your breath. So today, what am I going to talk about? Well, quite simply, my latest forays into street photography, or something that for me is street photography at least. What I have found is that a lot of the, how should I put it, a lot of the preconceived notions people have about what proper street photography is have pretty much been flattened over the last little while, because I find that, for me at least, a lot of those so-called norms are not really that normal. For instance, let's take focal length. Now, I do have a couple of 35mm equivalent lenses. This right here is my 17mm f2.8. That gives it a 34mm equivalent on full frame, so supposedly a very good lens for street photography. I like a little longer lens for street photography. Maybe even longer than Cartier-Bresson's favorite 50mm. But I must say that 50mm equivalent, or 25mm for my Micro Four Thirds, is a much better package for me. Anyhow, in my latest outing in street photography, I took a rather odd set of lenses and a Sony a6000. I took a 16mm f2.8. Not a very good lens, but nice and wide. Very tiny. I took the 16 to 50 power zoom, the little collapsible kit lens. And I took my 50mm f1.8 OSS, the optically stabilized 50mm. What I found was that when I started reviewing my images at the end, most of the images taken with the zoom lens were taken near the 50mm end. The 50mm lens itself was used for a lot of my keepers, the pictures that I actually liked and wanted to keep. Meanwhile, hardly anything at the wide end was all that appealing. So really, rather than 24 to 35mm area that most street photographers seem to prefer, which is why, of course, cameras like the Ricoh GR3, which is a 28mm equivalent, the Leica Q, which is nominally a 28mm equivalent. I can't speak for it, but everybody who uses it seems to think it might be actually a little wider than that. Then, of course, there is the Fujifilm X1000V, very, very, very popular. It has a 35mm equivalent, and here am I reaching for a 50. And you know, it's a throwback from my beginnings in photography, where, of course, back in the late '70s, early '80s, when you bought a camera, it came with a kit lens, and that kit lens was a fast 50. Something in the order of an f2, an f1.8, or an f1.7. One of those lenses was usually welded onto the front of the camera, and you probably didn't take it off. If you bought other lenses later, you still ended up going back to that 50 because you soon got used to it. So, folks, that is pretty much my take on this. And strangely enough, when you stop and look at it, the pictures I took with the Sony were actually at a 75mm equivalent. So I may be going short telephoto rather than wide normal, because I think 35 is best described as a wide normal, and 75 is a short telephoto. Anyhow, folks, main reason for making this video is just to let you know I'm still here. Somebody suggested that I should go through all of my camera gear right now, and personally, I find that rather embarrassing. As I said, my ongoing gas, which is, you know, to be fair, I at least got a very good deal in my last purchase. My ongoing gas has been a bit of a problem, and showing you all the gear that I've accumulated can be a little embarrassing. But I've also come to another simple conclusion. I have reached my practical limit on what I really need in terms of megapixels. Most of my cameras are 16 megapixel cameras. Some, like this little one here, is only 12. I only have one 12 megapixel now because I'm not counting the EP3. It'll be used for a little bit of macro work. The rest of my cameras are 16 megapixel micro four thirds cameras, all OMD models. And Sony A6000 is probably the most technologically current piece that I have. It's not necessarily the latest introduced. The OMD EM5 Mark II is probably that. But in terms of technology built in, and in terms of resolution, it is a 24 megapixel sensor, and that is my highest resolution camera. I find that even 24 is unnecessary. I find 12 more than adequate for 99% of what I'm going to do. If I were a serious birder, I'd want more croppability, so I'd probably want more megapixels. But I'm not a serious birder. I just go out with my friends when they go at it, and just to have fun. So, guys, that's where I am right now. I'm sticking with my older cameras, not because I think they're better than new cameras, but just because they serve me well. Well, guys, I don't know if this has been of much use or not, but if you liked it, give it a like. If you think anybody else is going to get anything from this, by all means share it. And, of course, if you want to see more of these, as infrequent as they may be, then subscribe. Bye for now.